The saying goes, there is no rest for the wicked. But with Fox, Daily Wire, and PragerU, I think we must say, they never sleep. Dennis falsified a scientific study to advance his masterclass, but not to be outdone, Ben Shapiro busies himself defaming the left, this time over the Smith-Petrus Grammy performance. Drew, of Genetically Modified Skeptic, breaks it down quite elegantly. And I think it's worthwhile to fold the two together to amplify my own thoughts on the state of affairs with U.S. conservatism and the consequences of its habitual mendacity. Rationality Rules dissected Prager's master class, and in doing so discovered that Dennis falsified the content of a scientific study, amongst other misrepresentations, to advance the thesis of his master class.
If society gets too secular, it ends. That's right, it ends. If God doesn't say love your neighbor as yourself, it doesn't mean a damn thing. It's just a sweet suggestion. Of course, you can think that stealing is wrong, and you can feel that murder is wrong if you don't believe in God. But it's just what you think and what you feel. It's your opinion. They're not objectively wrong. There's no objective moral truth if there is no God.
Fun Dennis fact. He needs to read the Bible more closely because in Genesis, tasting the tree of knowledge granted humans the ability to know right from wrong. So, Dennis has run roughshod straight over the Bible, and his biblical authority is questionable just on this oversight. I will offer one concession here and assert that there is a basis for his claim that godlessness leads to the end of civilization, but it's conditional. It would logically flow from the observation that some level of moral probity is existential for a community. Community cohesion is built on a sense of trust, trustworthiness, and common safety. If the community does not, will not, or cannot offer assurance against danger and wrong, then it loses its value to its members, and individuals can and will resort to vengeance to remedy wrongs, or will not hold themselves to rules and conduct they cannot expect others to follow. On the assumption that faith is necessary for moral conduct, then it does follow that faith is existential to civilization itself. But the consequence of faith must be moral probity. If faith fails to generate that behavior, if it is merely a sweet suggestion rather than an active discipline, then the entire argument and civilization unravels. Another way of saying this is objective morality is only as good as its observation.
Let's review that. Enhanced social support, less substance abuse, and lower rates of psychopathology. That's pretty powerful.
Do you want to know what's actually pretty powerful? Showing the title of one study, namely Religion and Suicide, New Findings, but when zooming in, showing an abstract from a completely different study. And if we Google the text that Dennis and the Daily Wire have added, we can see just one result comes up. But get this, it's from yet another study, a study titled Religiosity as a Protective Factor Against Suicidal Behaviour. But what Dennis did was take the objective and then paste it into another study to present it as if it's the conclusion, and to then paste both of these slices under the title of a third study.
Would you say that that's significant?
Yes, I would. In fact, I'd say that it's a damn disgrace. I cannot understate how unethical and immoral this is.
A quick refresher on the seriousness of the ninth commandment. False witness is among the 6 things God hates, King Solomon says. False testimony is among the things that defile a person, Jesus says. A little bit more from the Wikipedia page on this topic. In reference to a trial testimony, in cases where false testimony, this is bearing false witness, was suspected, if false testimony were proven, the false witness was to receive the punishment he had intended to bring on the person falsely accused. And those eager to receive or listen to false testimony were also subject to punishment. So, let's be clear, strictly from the faith itself. On this basis, it would suggest that those who are of the Judeo-Christian faiths would take any form of lying very seriously and refrain from it themselves. Dennis falsified a scientific study to advance his master class, but not to be outdone, Ben Shapiro busies himself with defaming the left, this time over the Smith-Petrus Grammy performance.
Okay, all of this begins with the Sam Smith-Kim Petras Grammy performance. They used lots of satanic imagery, conservative religious folks got mad, and Ben Shapiro made a video about how terrible the whole thing was. In that video, he discussed the modern influence of Romantic-era literature and its unique view of Satan. The weird thing was, he consistently misrepresented this view throughout the video.
I'm shocked.
Why? We'll get there, but for now, let's start at the beginning of his discussion of Satan in Romantic-era literature.
Satan in Paradise Lost very famously says, "In my choice to reign is worth ambition, though in hell. Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven." It's the big kind of tagline for Satan in Paradise Lost, is better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. And the whole reason that Satan rebels against God is not because he actually thinks that God is morally wrong. It's because he believes that individual autonomy, that his sense of power is more important than anything. He rebels against God specifically because God demands good things of him, not because he thinks that God is demanding bad things of him, but because he recognizes that God stands for a higher morality, something good and true. He rebels against it specifically for that reason.
Saying that the Romantics saw the highest possible good as an individual's sense of self-satisfaction is purposely uncharitable. Rather, human happiness was the measure of goodness for the Romantics. So, in John Milton's Paradise Lost, Satan rebels against God because God demands a role of servitude for all his creations, and Satan values his own autonomy and individuality too much to submit. Shapiro started to explain that, but then totally changed what he was saying in order to wrongly explain that Satan rebelled just because he wanted to be bad. Accurately explaining Satan's reasons for rebelling in Paradise Lost risks presenting his audience with a character they could sympathize with.
Ben does not limit himself to Paradise Lost, but also mischaracterizes another author, Percy Shelley, in a very familiar way.
Percy Shelley did not interpret Satan's character as John Milton likely intended. Shelley did not see Satan as rebelling against goodness and truth at all. He interpreted Paradise Lost to purposely depict God as an oppressive tyrant and Satan as heroic in rising up against oppression.
And so, in order to see Satan as a sort of hero, what you have to do is see society and its rules and religion and its strictures as a chain upon you. And if that happiness can only be achieved by casting off all societal rules, all responsibilities to other people, all goods that actually achieve good and happy for enormous numbers of people, if the only way to achieve your own sense of happiness in the moment, your own sense of sexual joy.
Jesus, Ben, you and your one-track gutter. Can't you get your mind off of sex for more than 5 minutes?
Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet-ass fury. In the moment is to throw away everything else. You throw away everything else. And that's why Satan is the good guy.
Now we get to the most interesting aspect of Ben's sleight of hand, and all props to Drew for this observation.
Did you catch what he did there? Shapiro read some of Shelley's writing where he says that religion demands servitude and creates misery. Shapiro then says that Shelley only considered his own happiness and sense of power when saying this, that Shelley and his idea of Satan care about absolutely no one but themselves. Effectively, Shapiro equates Shelley's ethics with a Christian view of Satan's ethos in Paradise Lost. The reality is, Satan has been a symbol for libertarians and even right-wingers for decades. The Church of Satan, founded in 1966 by Anton LaVey, has always been more libertarian right-leaning than left. LaVey took much of his inspiration for his satanic philosophy not from Percy Shelley or the other Romantics, but from Ayn Rand. He's been quoted as having said that his Satanism was just Ayn Rand's philosophy with ceremony and ritual added. A doctrine that gives you, as an ideal, the role of a sacrificial animal seeking slaughter on the altar of others is giving you death as your standard. By the grace of reality and the nature of life, man, every man, is an end in himself. He exists for his own sake, and the achievement of his own happiness is his highest moral purpose.
For completeness, here are a few clips from Mike Wallace's interview with Ayn Rand in 1959 when her book, Atlas Shrugged, was published.
First, my philosophy is based on the concept that reality exists as an objective absolute, that man's mind, reason, is his means of perceiving it, and that man needs a rational morality. He has to hold reason as an absolute, by which I mean that he has to hold reason as his only guide to action, and that he must live by the independent judgment of his own mind.
And let me start by quoting from a review of this novel, Atlas Shrugged, that appeared in Newsweek. It said that you are out to destroy almost every edifice in the contemporary American way of life, our Judeo-Christian religion, our modified government-regulated capitalism, our rule by the majority will. Other reviews have said that you scorn churches and the concept of God. Are these accurate criticisms?
Yes.
I want to point out here that Ben Shapiro constantly denounces the left as intent on these very same objectives. Yet Ayn Rand and her philosophy is iconic to conservatives like himself. Beyond this is the matter of her personality and the kind of human behavior she lionized. In 1928, just 2 years after Ayn Rand arrived in the U.S. from Soviet Russia and settled in Los Angeles, she scribbled diary notes in a brand new language that formed a story she called The Little Street. Its protagonist, Danny Renahan, is modeled on a real-life Los Angeles murderer, a 19-year-old William Hickman, who strangled and dismembered a girl in a kidnapping for ransom gone awry. In her notebooks, Rand makes a hero of both Hickman and the fictional Renahan, who murders a church pastor instead of a child and extols the killer's beautiful souls, which rise and set without a trace of, quote, social instinct or herd feeling. Of Hickman, she writes, quote, a strong man can eventually trample society under his feet. That boy was not strong enough. Meanwhile, Renahan does not understand, she writes quite rapturously, because he has no organ for understanding the necessity, meaning, or importance of other people. Color me stupid, but I'm having a problem trying to wrap my head around how this is consistent with Judeo-Christian values.
Ironically, the creed of pure self-interest he falsely attributes to the Satan of the Romantics and his political outgroup is only to be found in a satanic group which lifted its ideas from Shapiro's political in-group. Now, if you feel like it's a stretch to link Ayn Rand and Shapiro that closely together, let me show you a clip from Ben Shapiro's Media Network's YouTube channel.
Today, I'm thrilled to announce that Daily Wire Plus has optioned the exclusive rights to one of the most influential books of the 20th century, Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah. Daily Wire Plus owns the exclusive film rights to the main inspiration behind the philosophy of the Church of Satan, an organization which openly values individual power over the good of others. I could not have come up with a more ironic twist if I tried.
The fact that conservatives like him cannot win on good faith arguments speaks volumes about people like him. It impugns their own claims to piety and brings their own professed faith into disrepute. In short, they are a walking affront to the God they claim to believe in. And they vitiate their own claim that faith in this God underpins moral objectivity. The conduct conservatives actually engage in is objectively immoral because it erodes the social contract of trustworthiness that binds civilization together.
do it.